web. If you'll turn to the second page, you will see some italics at the bottom. I will read that because I think that's quite good information as to why there should be a stadium at Reynolds High School. One other point to consider that was researched and verified by RJR Principal Dr. Leslie Alexander. When one considers the percentage of minority students to the entire RJR student body in the spring semester of 2018, when it comes to participating in sports that are practiced and played on campus, the percentage of minority students participating matched exactly the percentage of students in the entire RJR student body that are considered minority. That is obviously what one wants to see at all high schools. However, when one considers the percentage of minority students participating in sports at Reynolds that are practiced and played off campus, the percentage of minority students that were participating is only 0.6% of the entire RJR student body. To be specific, out of a student body of 1,700, less than 10 minority students participated in sports that were practiced and played off campus. Obviously, that's a nightmare. The rest of the handout you see is another article found on the alumni website. It details events leading up to and what happened on the day that it was determined where Reynolds High School and Reynolds Auditorium would be located. And on that same day, it was also determined how Reynolds could use Haynes Park. That day happened to be July 3rd, 1919. There is one page about halfway back that is folded vertically on the handout you have. At the top of it, it has a picture of the proposed Haynes Park that showed up in the Winston-Salem paper. I'm going to read a couple of sentences in the middle of it. This park would be accessible by all types of existing modern transportation at that time, i.e. railroads, streetcars, and automobiles. The street next to the park would be the widest public paved road in the state at that time so that folks could park to watch high school athletic events. That street was Glade Street, hence watching football games and other sports at Reynolds High School was planned at the very beginning. It's always been a plan, and hopefully it'll continue to be there, and hopefully you guys will pass this thing tonight so that we can have a stadium. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you will, just state your name and then go right into your 3 minutes.
My name's Ellen Knott. I'm one of a group of concerned citizens that live in one of the neighborhoods surrounding Haynes Park. I'm not here because I'm opposed to athletics. Far from it. My 2 daughters graduated from Reynolds High School and played sports there. I understand the value of athletics for young people. I'm here because I value Haynes Park and all that it has brought and will continue to bring to this community. Haynes Park is a remarkable community resource serving diverse citizens from the entire county and beyond. Building a stadium of this size will have a negative impact on the park and the neighborhoods surrounding it, and will affect the people who come from far and wide to utilize it. I understand the property on which the stadium is to be built is school property. However, it is the responsibility of the school system and Reynolds High School to be good stewards of the land that was so generously donated to them and not negatively impact a unique and treasured community resource that serves a wide portion of county for something that would serve a small portion of our community. Negative effects that a large stadium will have on the area include, but are not limited to, increased traffic congestion in an already highly congested area. At the stadium, events at the stadium will increase congestion and fill the surrounding neighborhoods. Light and noise pollution, as well as increased trash in the park, which is already an issue without the stadium, are inevitable. Water runoff as damage to the vegetation, wildlife, and park are also inevitable. In addition, the design of the current proposed stadium impacts the aesthetic beauty of the park. The panoramic views of Wiley Middle School, a historic building that was carefully and beautifully sited, will be obstructed by the stadium. Something I ask you to remember: once green space is gone, it's gone. There's no going back. I also have long-term concerns that I do not believe have been adequately addressed. Among these are who will handle the cleanup, post-games, and events of the stadium. And please note The trash will not be contained in the stadium itself, nor will it be only on school property within the park. It will spread out across the park as people walk to and from the events across the park, who will ensure that there is enough funding to maintain the stadium into the future. It's one thing to build a $6 million stadium, it's another to maintain it. I do not want public funds being asked for 5 to 10 years down the road when repairs are required. And who will handle and pay for security during events at the stadium? I believe there are solutions to the athletic needs of RJR High School and other buildings in a large stadium that in fact impacts a treasured community resource. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Snowhite, and I'd like to thank Dr. Emery and the board for listening to our concerns about the plans for the stadium for Reynolds High School. There's been much talk about how this land belongs to the school system. I'd like to remind everyone that it is a public school system being paid for by taxpayer dollars, and technically it's land that still belongs to taxpayers. It is up to you to develop consensus and find a solution that suits all parties. The proposed solution does not fit the bill. HFA likes to say that Reynolds is the only high school without on-campus facilities to host home games. That is complete rubbish. I've gotten here from Athletic Director John Sullivan a list. Every single school in the county has at least one sports team, and most of them multiple, who take activity buses to other sites for their sports. Why are we prioritizing football? Don't know. Most of those schools farther from the city center do have a football field, but they're lacking other facilities, whether it's a pool or tennis courts or a track. I'd be happy to share this list with any of you after the meeting. Reynolds is in a densely populated and congested area. Before you make a commitment to move forward with a stadium on this particular piece of land, please know just how controversial it is. You know all too well the physical needs of our school buildings. You know how badly we need to raise teacher pay. You know how great the need is for teaching assistants and textbooks. I was a student athlete, lettered in 4 different sports, and not one of them used a stadium. I truly believe that sports can enhance the human experience, develop character, and is a key factor for keeping certain kids in school. But it's an exceedingly rare child for whom athletics will actually provide that ticket out. As Val Young, who's our esteemed teacher from Ashley, said to me the other day, I tell my kids, so, you're good at football, well that's great. If you think that's your ticket out, think again. What's your plan B? Because it needs to be up here. That's what real equity looks like. Providing books, teachers, a safe and healthy environment, everything the child needs to take the honors and AP classes that our middle-income families take for granted. Equity means providing lots of playing fields near the school so that everybody can walk to most of those practices. Providing transportation to games at Deaton Thompson, as well as adding an activity bus for parents to take them to the games. Buses are way cheaper than stadiums. Appreciating that they already have an auditorium and a dedicated arts building that are unparalleled anywhere in the country. If you move forward with this stadium, are you prepared for the schools that will want equity with a landmark auditorium? Since it's been, I have 2 more sentences. Since it's been an arts magnet, Reynolds has raised their graduation rates from 80% 10 years ago to 93.4% in 2016. This has everything to do with the arts and nothing to do with a stadium. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Steve Rapp. I live between Brunson Elementary and Wiley Middle School. I've lived there for almost 30 years, sent 2 sons through the system. They went to Brunson, to Wiley, and to Reynolds, and I'm very pleased. But I also was a student athlete, not in this area. I was a student athlete in basketball and soccer, and I learned a lot from sports. I learned how to lose and get up, win graciously, I learned how to manage pain and disappointment and excitement. And importantly, I learned how to collaborate and cooperate and compete and commit effort for the group benefit. I've been praising school sports and athletics ever since to anyone who will listen. However, I did not learn these things from the sports adornments. At my school, there was no soccer stadium, there was no football stadium, there was no baseball stadium. Even though the school district could well afford them, it was an affluent school district. Instead, we had fields, some with bleachers, others with not. Instead, the school board there put public dollars into teachers' salaries and educational resources to make sure that all students had a good shot at a fine education. I know of no one opposed to the stadium who is opposed to athletics, period. We all recognize the value. What bothers me most is that the school board would see fit to put precious tax dollars into adornments like an unnecessary stadium when there are higher priority needs. Answer us this: are all the buildings in the system up to grade? Are all the classrooms resourced adequately? Are teachers sufficiently paid, and are the salaries at a level that attracts the brightest and the best teachers? Do all students have the resources necessary to have their shot at a fine education? Until and unless the answer to each of these questions is an unequivocal yes, we have no business spending precious taxpayer dollars on luxuries like this stadium. And I would note that tax dollars have already been subsidizing home field advantage compared to the plan that was passed in 2012. And many more taxpayer dollars are going to be needed to maintain this stadium. Your responsibility as a school board, as I see it, is to make thoughtful decisions that benefit the education of all students, not just a select few. Decisions that contribute to the continued improvement of the system and betterment of all our children in the community. This is not a trivial decision. Vote wisely.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Barbara Lentz. I have a senior at R.J. Reynolds. He played football for 7 years until his team was part of a concussion study. And when he saw the results, he became a swimmer. So he's a varsity swimmer and an all-state musician. It was an easy choice for us to pick Reynolds. Here in Forsyth County, you have a choice of 16 different high schools, each with different amenities, from engineering to Air Force ROTC. There's lots of things you can do. They're not equal, they're equitable. The schools are not meant to be identical, but to offer different choices depending on what a family's needs are. So we chose Reynolds. Reynolds has been an arts magnet school since 2007. It's been an unqualified success. 100% of students at Reynolds participate in the arts. There's a proven correlation between arts education and academic success. We see that at Reynolds. If you don't want arts, you can choose another of the 15 schools in the county. You can make that choice. The stadium folks picked Reynolds, got all the benefits, and want more. It's not enough to have an arts magnet school that's recognized in the nation and a leading arts facility. They also want 2 stadiums. And they want to put the second stadium at the Wiley site. I was asked by the former board chair, Donnie Lambeth, almost a decade ago, to work with a parent committee to try and find a property somewhere in our downtown area for a residential public elementary school. We don't have one. If Brunson leaves, and there's no commitment to retain it or rebuild it, although we've heard you can have a school on stilts. I've never seen the plans. It's been almost a decade. We were told by school board members who worked with us a decade ago, 9 years ago, that nothing would be done with the Wiley site until there was land and a plan to build and make sure there was a residential public elementary school somewhere downtown. Our downtown area is critical to the success of our city and our county. Downtown has the highest population growth. It also has the largest increase of preschool kids in the county. When the stadium folks popped up, in 2012, they had big plans. They wanted to raise $6 million. They have failed to do that. In the 6 years, their 2016 tax return shows they have about $665,000. It's about $100,000 a year. They're going to need 20 more years to raise the $2.8 million. Having failed, now they want public money for their second stadium. I just have one more point. The HFA claims that there are 30% of Reynolds students who participate in athletics. So that's about 550 students. There's 55,000 students in the school district. They're working for the 1%. They want to fence the Wiley property and limit it to 1% of students in our county. And when y'all were elected to serve on the school board, you promised to work. You took an oath to work for all of us and to marshal our scarce resources for everyone. I need you to do that. We all need you to do that, to work for the, to secure the future for the students of all the students in our community. Not just the 1%.
Thanks. Bill Gibson, Jim Welch, Laura Burrows, Joann Mont, and Julie Magus. I think that's how it's. If you all just come up, and then if you'll just state your name when you come to the podium. Thank you.
Okay.
We are ready.
I'm Bill Gibson. Home field advantage wants a government bailout for a stadium that would constitute a foolish misallocation of scarce resources. Scarce human resources, scarce recreational resources, and scarce taxpayer resources. Stadium proponents claim that the students at Reynolds High School deserve to have a sports stadium on their campus. I beg to differ. What the kids at Reynolds really deserve are smaller class sizes, as well as adequate supplies and up-to-date equipment in their classrooms, their laboratories, and their libraries. These kids deserve to be guided by a team of skilled, well-trained, dedicated, and decently compensated teachers, teacher aides, and counselors. Now, 6 years have gone by since Home Field Advantage promised to raise, and it was $9 million, actually what they promised, from private sources to achieve their aims. This was back in 2012, some of you were around. But they've only been able to come up with, I think, a little over $1 million during that time. Meanwhile, as you are well aware, too many local public school facilities have genuine, serious needs that are only being partially addressed by the recent school bond project. And it's for class sizes, teacher pay, all the mission essential, I repeat, mission essential human resource inputs. Does anybody in this room, anywhere, believe that we're in good shape, that we've achieved a satisfactory situation in North Carolina, in Forsyth County, or even at Reynolds High? Compared to the students in the rest of America, our kids are at a home field disadvantage when it comes to the state of their classrooms. It's still a matter of sensible priorities. A wrong-headed idea 6 years ago remains wrong-headed today. Apparently, major donors around here can spot misplaced priorities when they see them, so they have wisely stayed away from the stadium project. So what do the stadium proponents want now that their privately financed pipe dream has failed to materialize? They want a government bailout. And they're asking you, the elected members of the Board of Education, to hand them one. You should politely deny their request. They're good people. We're good people. Everybody's good people here. But we got scarce resources. As public stewards, it is your responsibility to exercise prudent decision-making on behalf of all the tax-paying citizens of Winston-Salem and Forsyth County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. My name is Jim Welsh. My wife and I, Beth, were presidents of the RJR Booster Club last year and enjoyed that immensely. It was a learning experience for both of us. It was a learning experience because I thought it was going to be a lot about kids and sports, and it turned out being more about resources and sports. And I appreciate the good people here today that may disagree with the stadium, and I appreciate people's opinions about it and respect it, and you all have tough decisions to make. Just like folks on the Booster Club made tough decisions last year. And the one thing I've learned by being on that committee for the last few years is that our decisions are constantly the same. We can't ever grow. And I want, at some point in time, for RJR, for the Booster Club, for our students, for my daughter and my 2 daughters that will be there 2 years from now, I want our decisions to be about students and sports. And having the opportunity to have a stadium there would provide a great deal. It's not a football stadium. I have 3 daughters. It's a stadium that's going to hold track. It's a stadium that's going to hold girls lacrosse. It's a stadium that's going to hold girls soccer. All of those things are important to me. And let me emphasize, self-serving here. They're important to me because they're important to my daughters. And they're important to their memory over their high school experience. Financially, we get about $30,000 a year from the gate on concessions and tickets at Deaton Thompson. I can guarantee you that that will increase if there's a stadium right next to our school. Picture this. Last year I had a young lady who was a senior in high school at RJR, first time she'd ever played golf. She needed a uniform. She needed the financial assistance for a uniform. And I, as the president of the Booster Club, had to decline her request. That's a shame. That's a crying shame. I wanted my daughter, who got to play in a Final Four state lacrosse tournament this year. First time any time in this city she played. It was at Deaton Thompson. How great it would have been to have a home field advantage down the hill. As a father, that's what I would have liked to have had. We've got a partnership with our students, and we're here tonight to ask you for a partnership with us. And with that partnership, we can benefit and do a lot of great things. And I think we can do it in a manner that benefits the entire community, particularly that community that will sit juxtaposed to that stadium. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, board members and Dr. Emery. My name is Laura Burrows. I'm an RJR parent of 2 recent graduates, and I'm here tonight to urge the board to improve the construction plans before you this evening, because I believe it's an important public investment of support in the much-needed facility. And I'm using the word investment with intent because I want to highlight what I believe this community receives in return for its investment. First, the return on our young students. I would argue they do get a ticket out. They get a ticket out to a different life. And I want to be really clear with what athletics means when it comes to the performance of athletes in high school. I'm going to quote a study that looked at data from 125,000 North Carolina high school students. Athletes have better attendance. They missed only 6.3 days per school year compared to 11.9 of non-athletes. They have fewer discipline referrals by 10 percentage points. The dropout rate for athletes is 12 times lower than non-athletes. And they have a higher graduation rate. Statewide, the graduation rate for athletes is 99.4% versus 93.5% for non-athletes. That is a ticket. That is a good ticket. Athletics matter. So I think when I think about why we're here tonight, why we're talking about improving access and equity, it's about those statistics. For those students, participation in sports, it's what keeps them in the classroom. It's what motivates them to do well, and it's why they graduate. These are all things, problems that we're trying to address, and I think athletics plays an important role in building that solution. Second, as Jim mentioned, athletic facilities benefit our entire school through gate and sponsorship dollars. That money goes directly to a school operating fund that our administrators get to use for things like technology. So athletics is part of that overall benefit. And third, and this is obvious, but this facility becomes a district asset. It goes in the plus category of your balance sheet. And whereas you have paid 100% of every other school facility, this facility is going to stand out as an innovative private and public partnership made possible by private donations from people in this community who are advocating for greater access and equity. And I just hope that when those of us who are here tonight are asked why it's important, we talk about statistics and we talk about financials, but we also talk about the less tangible things, about bringing in, not shutting out our students, of experiencing true school spirit when your athletics are held onto your campus, and of the transformative impact we know that teams and teammates and coaches have on the lives of our students during high school and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joann Mount, and I'm speaking as a concerned citizen and as president of the West End Association. I believe that the Home Field Advantage organization made an agreement with the school board to raise the money for a football stadium for Reynolds High School. They have fallen short of their goal, and now they want the board and ultimately the taxpayers to pay for the project. When we have schools that are failing to provide the bare necessities for academic success, I believe that it's irresponsible to ask for a new stadium. When we have schools that are not even able to ensure healthy air and healthy water for our students, I believe that it is irresponsible to ask for a new stadium. It has been said that all of the high schools have their own stadium. This is obviously not true. Parkland and Reynolds share a stadium which is not located on either school's property. It is the school board's job to prioritize the needs of the children, and I do not believe that this stadium should be anywhere near the top of the priority list. I hope that the school board will do its job for our children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie Magnus, and I'd like to speak to two issues. The first is, voting is on all our minds. We're looking at who we want to vote for our school board, and I'm certainly looking for school board members that are willing to ask questions. As I sat in the Buildings and Ground meeting 2 weeks ago, one of the questions I had was when Darrell Walker brought up the fact that there had not been a decision yet about where the Wiley gym should go and the power plant, and that one place might shrink the gym down, and that decision hadn't been made. I have heard, and I don't know if this is true, I might be hearsay, that the Wiley gym footprint has to be moved in order to put this stadium in. How much is that going to hurt Wiley gym, and how much is that going to cost the school system? Another thing I'd like to bring up, I used to live in West End, right up the street. My sister's kids, 4 of them all went to Brunson, Wiley, Reynolds. They were all 4 athletes. 3 went on to be college athletes. I remember giving to the public endeavor to refurbish Reynolds Auditorium. The public promised to come up with the money. The public did not, and the school system had to come up with the difference just to get the project finished so it could be used again. At the time, the West Highlands Neighborhood Association didn't really have a big need to be active, and the rest of the treasury, it was small, it was under $300, was donated to help whatever little bit it could be. So when we're looking at money, let's be real careful with that. The other thing I'd like to bring up is the iReady program that was voted on 2 meetings ago here, and I had quite a few questions to ask the board about that. Was the board aware that there's also a $7,000 per school teacher toolbox that was not necessarily included in that? Did the data that iReady provide indicate whether you had to be successful, you had to use the toolbox to be successful to their level? If the was there data provided to show that using iReady is also showing the
And
same?
I don't want to cut you off, but this is for items that are on the agenda.
Okay,
not,
it said finance committee.
So that could be, so finance and building and grounds, because Mr. Jabbar's going to come out of his seat back there, because I always tell him, you can't talk about that. So if you want to talk about iReady, if you will just sign up for the public comments at the end of the meeting, we can talk about
That's fine. I just figured finance committee it hit. But thank you. I do hope that you will consider what's going into buildings and grounds right now.
Thank you. Todd Carlton, Dan Rose, Greg Cox, Anna Goodman, and Mr. Davis, Ontario, I can't read, Antonio. I was looking, well, if I'd put my glasses on, it would help too. But. Okay, go right ahead.
Dr. Emery, Chairman Jones, and board members, my name is Todd Carlton. My wife Sally and I are the co-presidents of the Booster Club at Reynolds High School. We love Reynolds High School. I'd like to first thank you for providing us with this forum tonight. And I'd like to take a few minutes to review quickly the state of athletics at R.J. Reynolds High School and tie that very closely to the demographics at Reynolds High School. Athletics at RJR look far different today than back when Reynolds was playing at Bowman Gray Stadium in the 70s and 80s in the early days of Deaton Thompson. We have more students participating in sports, both boys and girls. We have enough students to field varsity and JV teams. We've added sports like boys and girls lacrosse, as well as field hockey. All in all, RJR has 12 field sport teams who would be using the proposed facility. It's not just football. With our expanded teams come expanded costs, providing safety equipment like helmets for every player, making sure our equipment is adequate, and most importantly, safe. A few points, though, on the current demographics. Our residential zone stretches from the South Fork neighborhood along Country Club Road all the way down towards Smith Reynolds Airport. It's a huge swath. We have approximately 1,700 students today, of which 800 qualify for free and reduced lunch. That's more students, 800, than the entire student body of some of our district schools. These are the students who are straining to make it work with athletic teams at Reynolds. They play at locations miles away and practice at locations miles away. These are the students that are getting left out. I think you see where I'm going here. Admittedly, every school has some diamond in the rough athlete that doesn't make it on some team for one reason or another. What I suggest is at Reynolds, we have student athletes who are all but disqualified due to circumstances entirely out of their control. We ask for your support on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm here to speak in opposition to the plan to enter into a public-private partnership with Home Field Advantage and build a football and lacrosse and all other sports kind of stadium at Reynolds High School. Home Field Advantage is touting the money they've raised privately for this project, but as others have pointed out, they entered into an agreement with the school board in 2012 under which they would raise all of the money for the project entirely by themselves. To date, they have fallen far short of their fundraising goals. And now they're trying to literally and figuratively move the goalposts by asking you all to spend our taxpayer dollars. I want to emphasize that word again to you, our taxpayer dollars. What happens if you do spend this money, our money? There will be other funding gaps to address, such as the maintenance of the stadium, but they have a plan for that too, right? They have a plan. They have said that surely there's some corporation out there that's willing to pay part of the maintenance costs to weave their messages into our children's lives. And when that's done, they'll still be, we will still be on the hook for the bulk of the cost of maintenance, cleanup, and other unseen gaps that will emerge. So they will be coming back to taxpayers again and again to fund the maintenance of this field, just like schools like Mount Tabor are now undergoing. And this plan opens the door to violate something else that is sacred to our public schools. We have longstanding policies that protect our students by keeping advertising out of schools. So this public and private partnership that they have so touted is going to open the door to monetizing the naming rights, advertising in our schools, plastering corporate logos on our stadium, the field, the scoreboard, and the goalposts even. If you allow advertising in schools, which this plan is going to open the door to, then you're going to promote the exploitation of impressionable children, and it's going to hinder our district from achieving our educational and child development missions. Corporate advertisers, believe it or not, often advance values that run counter to what our schools stand for. Education should empower students to think critically and independently and to develop intellectual curiosity in an environment free from commercialization. So please, do not open this door. Not 1 cent of public money from the Board of Education or any other public source should be committed to this unwieldy project. One final point, with all due respect to all of the school board here, you all are failing to meet our current building and grounds commitments as a district. Aging schools with health risks to children, such as Ashley Academy, need to be addressed before any additional commitments are made to new facilities, especially a commitment as frivolous as a football venue. Thank you for your time.
I'm Anna Goodman. I'm a second generation Reynolds alumna, and my son, as of last May, is third generation, and I'm here as kind of a counterpart to Harry Corpening. I represent the large portion of Reynolds parents and students and alumni, not just all over town, but all over the country, all over the world, who think this is an awful idea. And we don't speak up. You're never going to know how many of us there are, because our kids have to go to Reynolds, and we don't want our kids to get beat up. Our kids aren't going to speak up because they don't want to get beat up by the football team. It's an intimidating atmosphere, and I'm only here because my kid graduated and I don't have to go into the building anymore. And we don't speak up because we don't want to lose lifelong friends over this. But Harry, you can fact check me on this. The Reynolds Auditorium, when that was announced, raised $6 million in less than a year. When this stadium was announced in 2012, it raised $1 million. It has, in 6 years, it's raised $1 million in 6 years. So just do the math and think about what a lack of alumni support that represents. Those are real numbers. There are a lot of people out there who think this is a horrible idea. People from Winston-Salem, that it's not just about the park and it's not just about the school. It's about bigger issues. It's about real equity, not an exaggerated inconvenience where, you know, there's real stuff we need to do for our kids, and a stadium does not do that. Also, the fact that they only have $1 million, that kind of shows that this effort is not really coming from real private citizens giving real money. And it's not coming from real public support. It's somehow coming from these donors, and we still don't know who they are. I mean, who are these people? Are they big corporations? Are they, like the guy before me was saying, are they big corporations that are going to put big logos hanging up on this prime real estate in the front yard of a Title I middle school? Is that really what you guys are trying to pull off here? Is that why it's called an innovative public-private partnership? Is it because the innovation is trying to figure out if a big corporation can extend their sports marketing program? They've worn out the college thing, and now they're going to try to get into high schools? Are we going to let that happen in Winston-Salem? And if we are, that's going to be a problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Dr. Emery, Chairman Jones, fellow commissioners, I appreciate the time tonight. My name is Greg Cox. I have been involved with Home Field Advantage since the fall of 2011. It's a long time, 7 years, to be involved in a project, and 2 other times parents tried to have this same stadium idea come to completion. Unfortunately, like most of my colleagues involved with Home Field Advantage, your kids matriculate. And 3 of mine have matriculated in the time that I've been involved with Home Field Advantage. Fortunately, with your support, we will reach the ultimate end conclusion of building a stadium on the campus of Reynolds High School. And since 1923, that vision, which was supposed to be a reality, will become one. In 2011, when I was approached to be involved with this process, I was asked to be a participant to raise funds. And many of the folks here tonight have addressed the funds that we have raised. Unfortunately, when you have a project that doesn't have a timeline, does not have an approval, it's hard to find folks to give their money. I am one of the folks that have given lots of my own money. I graduated from RJR in 1986. I played football at Bowman Gray Stadium, but it wasn't home. Home is amid the pines where we go to school every day and our children do. And other schools within our district have the opportunity to walk out the back door of their school and to participate on the grounds of their school with their classmates. I hope to one day have that opportunity with my 4th child to go to the activities on the grounds of Reynolds High School. Not only will it offer the opportunity for us to support the lives while they are there at school, but we will enhance the lives of their time at school. Leslie Alexander, our principal, will have the opportunity, as the principal at West Forsyth does today, where they raise $140,000 a year through the admissions to athletic events for football on campus. We may not raise $140,000, but we'll have the opportunity to enhance the technology and other academic initiatives at Reynolds High School. I thank you for your listen. I thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Can I get all Reynolds athletes who are using the stadium to stand, please? What I'd like you all to consider, because I believe everybody up here has already made a decision on what they're going to vote. So there's not much I could say to change your mind. Let's be honest. But sitting here, I'm really appalled by some of the things I hear. I don't believe the people who oppose the stadium oppose sports. I don't think they have any oughts towards any of these kids, and this is a small percentage of the kids who would use the stadium. I think they have a real doubt about what's going to come from the stadium. That happens with anything that's new. I'm not speaking on Home Field Advantage's behalf. I'm not speaking as an opposer. I'm speaking as a parent and a concerned citizen. My son plays basketball and football at Reynolds, but the first thing he does is go to school. Okay? And it is appalling that somebody would think that any of these kids here and the number of kids
So, sir, if you'll just address the board.
will get beat up.
Thanks.
For going to Reynolds High School. And when I hear that, to me it sounds like there's something in there that you just don't really want to say. So let's understand that nobody who has come up here today looks like me, right? I go to the park about 4 or 5 days a week because I like to see my son, what he's doing, make sure he's doing the right thing in practice. I will tell you this, that park is not diverse any other day except for track practice and football practice. I was down there yesterday, and a group of kids wanted to go from one small area that we have that doesn't represent a football field and go to another area that they use every day, and there was about 10 people who don't look like most of them who were warming up to jog. They know those kids practice there. They know it. And so if we're going to be inclusive, all that I ask you to do is include everybody. No, the kids don't need a stadium, but do we need most of the things that we need, that we have? I don't know what schools they're talking about that don't have home fields, because I've been to a lot since my son's been playing, and I hate seeing parents stand outside of the stadium when their game is over. They're standing on the wall. Yeah, George, what you doing tonight? I don't know. When we get home, maybe go out for a beer. We can't do that. My daughter has to get in the car, ride to Reynolds High School, sit outside the gym, and wait at least 45 minutes before the kids get there, get their stuff off, and get back in the car and go home. This past weekend, she didn't get home until 12 o'clock in the morning. Now, yeah, it's a small inconvenience. But if this exists where you live, you should be okay with it. Because if you have a heart and we make this about these kids who are standing up, then the choice is not hard. But if it's about anything other than that, then it might be a little, you might struggle with it a little bit. But if you make it about these people and the other kids who will be able to use this facility and not have to drive there and not have to stay late and get back to the gym late, to change late, then the decision is easy. And like I said, most of you have probably already made your decision. But if you consider these children, yeah, I think it's easy.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Val Young. Jack, I have no idea what your last name, okay, you know, great. Anson, Fred Bland, and Bruce Patterson.
Good evening, I'm Val Young. I was reading the reasoning for the stadium, and one word really resonated for me. It was inequity. So when I read it, the statement said, this new stadium will correct a long-standing inequity with regards to athletic facilities at the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School. And it made me think that the lack of a stadium does not line up with my inequity priority. Especially when it comes to schools in disrepair, lack of resources, dealing with children in the food deserts, dealing with students who are dealing with homelessness in elementary school. Those are inequities that some of our children have. And so a lack of a stadium, to me, is an inconvenience, not an inequity. And equity is what we think of every day when we had our issues at Ashland. So for me, as a taxpayer, as a teacher, as a person, until Ashley gets a brand new school, then that inequity could never be rectified for me to say that a stadium is warranted. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Young.
I'm just going to speak for these four on behalf, so like they don't have to.
No problem.
But, okay.
Whatever you'd like to do.
All right. Well, I'm Jack Petrus. These are my teammates, Anson Waldorf, Fred Bland, and Samuel Carlton. And Anson and I have played on the varsity lacrosse team for 4 years at Reynolds. And we just we vouched for the stadium. And I started saying, at Reynolds lacrosse, we've been moved around last year. We got moved around, I think, 3 times from practice field. We started at Children's Home, went to South Fork, then went to Bolton. And every single time, we don't have field lights or anything. So our practice gets cut off at a sharp around 7 o'clock, 7:30, because it gets dark. We don't have enough time to get everything in. And we are a team that contends for a state championship every single year. And with that being said, I think the stadium would help us tremendously exceed our goals with our lacrosse team, but also would help us with just lacrosse. It would help with football, basketball, ROTC, marching band, the band, etc., and every other sport at Reynolds. People were saying they were saying that sports isn't just a ticket to college, but for some kids, I would argue that a lot of my friends, a couple who are in college now, has struggled to learn in school, and their GPAs were not so good in the side of the pool. But without sports, they would not be attending D1 colleges, playing D1 sports right now. They'd probably be at home on the couch. Without the sports, they cannot pursue their lives pursue college and so on. And I also like to say, with the stadium being off campus, it's like a 30-minute drive. Dude, y'all put us on a bus. I'm sorry, I'm not very good at public speaking. I'm just gonna go ahead and say
You're doing
that
a
right
great
now.
job. You're fine.
But we get put on, last year y'all put us on a bus to go to practice, in which sort of made problems worse for us academically. I remember I wouldn't get home from practices until like around 10 each night because the buses drive so slow and it just takes so long to get there. But that's really all I have to say. If Anson would like to speak.
Yeah, so we also, before games, we have to change in the Parkland gym, which is getting getting renovated last year. So that was kind of a pain, and that's how it's always been all 4 years, is we just changed in the Parkland gym or in the showers. And also by the time the playoffs come around, the lacrosse field or Dean Thompson is just like, it's dirt. So like, and we're usually competing for a state championship every year. So that's basically all I got to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bruce Patterson, a parent of 2 former RJR students and 2 former RJR athletes. And first and foremost, I want to thank you and your predecessors for providing them with a great education and preparing them so well. One of them graduated summa cum laude, #1 in his class at Clemson University. The other graduated with a 3.98 average at North Carolina UNC Chapel Hill School of Business, is now utilizing his athletic background, working for Red Bull and all the X Games and the things there. So thank you very much for preparing them very well in an area, a school system that I've heard there are many, many deficiencies. But thank you for helping us get through that and educating them very well and preparing them very well. But most importantly, this is not about, in my opinion, not about my sons. It's not about student athletes or students that aren't athletes because they can't be. It's not about them that are like me or like them or like their friends. It's not about the 50% of the haves at R.J. Reynolds High School. It's about the 50% or more than 50% that don't participate because they can't, because they don't have the facility available to them like they do at other schools. Yeah, they could choose to go to another school, but that's a whole nother issue, to have to move from the area that services Reynolds to have to go to a West Forsyth or to go to another facility like a Tabor that has it on site. They can't do that either. This is about the 47% of the R.J. Reynolds population that are on the free and reduced lunch program. The less than 1% of the population that don't participate in the activities that require them to go off campus. It's about that student body. The greater than 800 students, greater than some of our high schools' total populations, that don't participate because they don't have the facility. This is about equity for them in that. For that, I'd ask you to support the construction of the stadium. It's really a home field environment for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Vanice, Phoebe, Jennifer, maybe Snow White, I see your name on again. Maybe, no, it shouldn't be. Okay, we're going. Christopher Hall, Al Jabbar. You're good.
All right. My name is Vanessa Czibor, and I'm a mother of 3 students currently at Brunson, Wiley, and one about to be at Brunson. My oldest child is a 3-sport student athlete at Wiley. Having a soccer field, an upgraded soccer field that our students could access without traveling to Bolton would indeed be more convenient. I hesitate to say that it rises to the level of inequity. An updated soccer field would indeed serve the students at both Wiley and Reynolds. And if it were a mixed-use field, as others have said, it would serve additional students as well. However, if this is about equity and access, I don't understand why this facility would be fenced and locked when athletic teams were not using it. The gift of the land where Haynes Park sits was a gift to be shared by the school and the public. When used by the school, it was to be used by all students, not just the ones who made it onto a sports team. The other facilities that Reynolds uses that are shared with the park are open to the public when they're not being used for practice or games. I don't understand, if this is truly about equity and access, why we're locking it and excluding those members of the public and even the Wiley and Reynolds communities that are not part of a sports team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Biddy Coyne, and I am a parent of 2 children that have been through the downtown school system, Brunson, Wiley, Reynolds, Paisley, and Haynes, and Atkins. Only 2 kids, but we got a lot of schools under our belt. Anyway, I just want to reiterate that we know everyone here supports our kids, we support our schools, their extracurricular activities and more, but the stadium is a contentious issue. And you have an important decision to make. And I truly hope that you have arrived here tonight to make a decision, that you didn't arrive with a decision in your pocket. I was told that the impression was that the opposition to the stadium plan had died away, and I think you can see that is not the case. There are many supporters of Haynes Park, many supporters of true equity in our schools here tonight, and some that have not been able to be here. We've been here all along because we do not matriculate. We live here. This is our home we're talking about. The stadium plan has been sold and promoted by some of the most affluent and powerful families in Winston-Salem. And they have said that it's a project for the kids. They have said that what this is for those who are disadvantaged or those who have not. But they haven't talked about what's in it for those who have. And I want to point out that this plan is a plan to make Reynolds great again. It's about a legacy for many people. Every adult I know who came here tonight or considered speaking tonight did so by calculating the risks involved. There is fear of retaliation from this very powerful and influential group. What I want to also point out is while a coach asked his players to stand and point out the children, I will point out the lack of children that speak out against this plan, and I hope that that speaks volumes to you. As any educator should know, when children are silenced, that should be a concern. This is Bullying Awareness Month, and it's very serious. And when my friend came up here and said that she was concerned about the well-being and safety of her child at Reynolds, you laughed.
Address the board.
This is no laughing matter here. There's a culture and a climate at Reynolds that has very much to do with how this plan has been developed. It has not been developed with an open and transparent process involving buy-in from the whole community. It has been involved with a very small community. That this plan has been peddled by boosters the way boosters talk about plans. But this is not a healthy rivalry. This is a problem. And the access to our students, bringing them to meetings, to hold a team up dressed in opposition to our city leaders is not how we handle decisions in our schools with our children.
Thank you.
Hello,
my name is Christopher Hall, and I'm going to read some summaries of stories from around the nation on high school stadiums. In Bonita Springs, Florida in 2017, a construction company representative said that roughly 78% of high school stadiums builds go over budget. And he used that to justify an additional $13 million needed to finish the project. But more was needed to make the school complete. In Taylor, Texas in 2017, a 2015 bond for $21 million was over budget by $3.7 million, but end results weren't what was originally proposed. The school board had to cancel parts of the original project, or it would have been even more over budget. In Crossville, Tennessee in 2018, discoveries during construction project led to an additional $1 million in costs over all the construction costs, and it continued to rise, particularly due to rising material costs, including new tariffs on steel and aluminum. The entire preliminary costs estimated the project at $10.5 million, but it was likely to be escalated due to these factors. In Lynchburg, Virginia in 2014, a project for high school stadium was estimated at $8.3 million, but after the first stage of work, final estimates exceeded what the city can afford, leading to cuts in the project to significantly redesign. In Charleston, South Carolina in 2018, the original budget was set at $8.1 million, but doubled in cost to $16.5 million, leading to increase in sales taxes with specific wording that funds cannot go to everyday expenses such as teacher salaries, but can only be used for construction. The school district ended up spending $11.5 million for a 38-acre lot to accommodate the building of the stadium. That's in addition to what was already budgeted. In Allen, Texas in 2014, $60 million stadium closed after 2 years of operation due to several structural insufficiencies, leading to a loss of $600,000 in revenue and repairs that estimated at over $2 million, and it was closed for 18 months as a part of that. In Atlanta, Georgia, artificial turf, in 2016, artificial turf that was installed in various high school stadiums throughout the state led to unexpected costs for districts ranging between $200,000 to $750,000. In Des Moines, Iowa, in 2016, the city had to close football high school facility to address various issues in city ordinances, which included the stadium, renting the stadium to outside use and illegal alcohol and drug use on site, parking issues and noise violations. So I'm raising these concerns to highlight that this project is likely to go over budget, going to have unexpected costs to the community beyond finances, and would contribute to potential disturbances that are already in a very congested area. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman Jones, Dr. Emery, school board members. My name is Al Jibor. I live at 617 Daffodil Drive, Kernersville, North Carolina. I'm here today, and I want to make it clear that I'm for any program that would give low-performing schools a better opportunity. What concerns me is that for the past years, we've asked this board for data concerning the achievement gap, and we have not gotten it yet. And my conclusion is it's not any. So now we're looking at a program at Ashton. My first question is Ashton the only school that need a program such as this? Question. When we discuss low-performing schools, it really pains me that we pick and choose based on whatever we pick and choose on to bring in these programs. But this is my concern as it is with achievement gaps. Where's the funding coming from? What are the objectives? How are these objectives going to be measured? And when do we, as community, begin to get some of this information back from the school board? We sit in wonder that we have elected this board to represent the school system. But yet, we find it hard to get data from the very people that we elected to these positions. I think it's a travesty that we can't get any data on these low-performing schools about closing the achievement gap. So kudos to Ashley. You know, we spend a lot of time down there. But I'm concerned about equity across all these low-performing schools. Why is it just Ashley we speak about? I don't know. In fact, we never know, but we do ask.
Thank you, Mr. Czibor. Leah Hardy, Samuel Ball, Woody Kleinard, Alan Daniel, Joshua Ziesel, and TJ Edgars.
Can I get all the football players up here, please? Hi, my name is Leah Hardy. This is my son. He's a freshman over at Reynolds High School. I heard a lot of people, you know, say citizen. I've been a citizen. I've been working ever since I was 14 years of age. I'm 43. So at the end of the day, we all are taxpayers, but these are our kids. These are the minority of the football team. So when they talk about minority, and it's a lot of game initiation going on, and it's mostly with minority, with our kids and Mexicans. So we need our kids to be active, to stay active. My oldest son graduated this year from St. Augustine, summa cum laude and everything. This son right here, he's academic. I love Coach Crowley and the football team. Why? Because they're a student before they're athletes. And he pushes, at the end of the day, you have to have an A-B average. If not, you won't be playing. So that speaks volume, not only as an athlete, student first. We need this stadium, just like many of y'all probably own your own home. Probably remember when you first bought your first car, how did you feel? Think about the kids with stadium, their own stadium. They can call home. You can get more kids to be involved when it's something at home instead of have to travel all over on the other side. Yes, Parkland and Reynolds share that stadium, but at the end of the day, look where it's at, over at Parkland. You go into the concession stands, Parkland has the majority in the concession stand, which I didn't understand that, because if we're supposed to be doing something together, it should be equal to divided together. It's not. It's divided way off. I just feel that we need this stadium, more kids, and from my understanding, this is my first year here, but they said this is the highest volume of kids that came out this year. That speaks volume. So just imagine if the stadium come, how other more minorities, because that's what I'm hearing, minorities, bullies. These kids is focused in school. They're focused in playing football. My son came in second in the county in middle school for shot put. So academic-wise, that's what I push. But if he want to play football, he wants to play lacrosse, let it be. But let it be at home. Home is where you feel safe. I don't understand what they talking about, not feeling safe, bullying. You don't hear that. But at the end of the day, what about Mount Tabor? What about Glenn? What about Paisley? All of them being built. Ain't nobody talking about that. Where was they at when they was being built? I can't hear you at the end of the day. But again, at Mount Tabor, it's congested. Just like if you build this stadium, it will be congested, but we'll work around it and we'll make a way. And ROTC, I had to do it. I cleaned up at Glenn because I was in ROTC. So it will be cleaned up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chairperson Jones, Dr. Emery, everyone else here. First of all, I want to commend the Reynolds students for being advocates for your needs as students and as athletes. So thank you for being here. my major concerns are with the unknowns of this project, okay? And a lot of these may be covered later on this evening in the discussions. I've been hearing talk about the plan for the stadium costing $6.2 million. On the website for Home Field Advantage, at the top of the website, it says $2.8 million. In their campaign page, it says $4.5 million. So there's some uncertainty there. I'm not entirely sure what's going on. They say that they've only raised about 800,000 of that. It might be $1 million now. I'm not sure if they've updated it or not. If there is a gap between the money that they raise and the money that is required to make this project happen, where is the remainder of the money coming from? Because I personally don't think that we should be taking public school funds to pay for this athletic complex that it was agreed that was going to be privately funded. Also, I have, I'm gonna make this brief because most of my points have already been said in one way, shape, or form. My concerns are mostly about going over budget, the fact that the costs are going to be rising and the estimates have probably not kept up with the rising costs. I don't want public funds to be paying for the gap in the private funding for it. I'm also wondering about the maintenance, who's going to pay for the upkeep and maintaining the stadium. Is that going to be coming from ticket sales? How are we going to make sure the ticket sales are maintained? Are we going to be making up the difference from that as taxpayers? Also, there are unexpected costs that come along with that, such as the environmental costs and everything that comes along with that. I'm concerned. I don't want any of us as citizens, as members of the school district, as taxpayers to get played by anybody. And I definitely don't want the players to get played. They should be playing, not getting played. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Joshua Ziesel, longtime listener, first-time caller. I just wanted to say that I really appreciate, I mean, you all had to listen to a lot of comments tonight. I'm a psychologist, so I'm used to having to like absorb a lot of information, but I know it's been a long time, so I appreciate you all just really listening and paying attention and really considering all these perspectives as you're making this really important decision. This is just one of the important decisions you're making today, actually, but everyone seems to be wanting to talk about the stadium. So I just want to mention, so I was at the debate last week for District 2 and the at-large candidates, so I got to see a few of you there, and I was really impressed by a lot of the things that you were saying about what you we're really wanting to see happen over the next 4 years. And some of the things that you all mentioned who were there were kind of wanting to prioritize teacher pay, wanting to prioritize textbooks, wanting to prioritize getting teachers' aides. I've heard a few people mention that today. I think it's great that the Reynolds parents and students are so passionate about this. Of course they want this. Like, it would be awesome if they had this stadium. I think that it would make it would increase opportunities for all the students. I'm definitely not denying anything that these parents and students are saying, but I think you all as school board members are in a position where you have the opportunity to kind of get the bird's eye view of kind of what's happening district-wide. And while I do think that, you know, building this stadium definitely addresses some of the inequity that maybe is present for Reynolds students, I would really encourage you to think about inequities for students across the entire school system. You know, there's still a lot of questions about, I mean, I can't get over the fact that, you know, that textbooks are still such an issue. And I just imagine that, you know, while this stadium would be really awesome, you know, someone was thinking about the students who are here, and it's really cool to hear that we have such good sports. I wasn't a sports person, so I don't necessarily understand it, but I think it's really great. I loved hearing the statistics about how athletes show up to school more, and I think that that's great. And I think that all of that can still happen without this stadium. You know, someone was mentioning to think about the kids who are here, but I would encourage you to think about the kids who aren't here, and just think about kind of the entire school system as you make this decision. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So my name is TJ Eggers, and I feel uniquely qualified to speak on this topic because all three of my siblings went through Reynolds, yet I still live in the West End area, the Buena Vista area, and I run around Haynes Park quite regularly. A lot of these people are throwing out statistics about how the stadium could go over budget, blah, blah, blah. We're looking to build a 2,100 person stadium. Our gym alone holds 2,400. All right, so we're not looking to build some 6,000 seat monstrosity that's gonna ruin the view of Wiley High School. The designs I've seen have a very nice, view where you're gonna walk in and you're at the top of the stadium. You're not gonna have seats going up all over the place. All right, that's the first thing. Second thing, growing up going to sporting events, both my brothers played soccer at Bolton Field, not on campus, okay? I never went to a single football game even though my sister was a cheerleader because it was off campus. Otis, if we had practice, if you couldn't have practice on the baseball field, would you be able to go to practice every day? No, you wouldn't be. All right, you wouldn't be able to go to practice. All right, for those of you who are concerned about the trash in the park, none of my students that are in my health or sports medicine class are here today, but one of our things on Fridays is for physical exercise, we walk around the park and we pick up trash. So we give back in that regard as well. All right, so we could do things like that if y'all are concerned about the trash pickup. So in terms of parking, I know there's a concern about that. We have the student lots, and we never have issues with parking for basketball games, and there'll be more people, there's more people for basketball games than football games. Off-campus stadiums for other schools, there's not a ton. I know there's a couple, but a lot of those off-campus sports are like golf, okay? I understand that you can't have a golf course on campus. It'll be beneficial for Wiley to have access to a field as well. But just in general, I understand the costs and I understand the issues, but a lot of these boys would not be able to play sports, all right? I'm a girls basketball coach. We don't have air conditioning in the gym. A lot of times my girls aren't picked up until 8, 9 p.m., all right? They just don't have the means to get there. They don't, all right? And if we don't do something quickly, then other kids are not gonna be able to play. It's just the way it is, all right? And again, this is a person that's living in the area and runs around Haynes Park. Not that I don't care, but it won't bother me as much as some of the other people because I understand what it means to this community and to our students. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Woody Kleinert. I'm a 17-year Augustine Orton Gillingham tutor. And I say that because I come from a different perspective. My general concern is the priorities of how to spend the shortfall that we have now of money for school systems. I attended a meeting about a month ago, and the speaker, James Perry of the Urban Leagues, put on the board 70% of our third graders in the Forsyth system cannot read at level. Well, that's pretty heartbreaking. Then he put it up, 70% of our 10th graders cannot read at grade level. I didn't research this, but if it's even near that. So where do we spend the money? In the class that I'm in at my school where I tutor a child, the whole class 2 years ago, there were 19, not one read in the second grade at grade level, not one. And to spend money for, well, I would call it a kind of frill for a stadium with tax money is a travesty on education. We just cannot do that. I grew up here, I've been here all my life, 89 years, and our schools all played. I think there were 5 high schools in the city. It was before it was consolidated, played at Bowling Green. I'm not aware that, and we didn't have school buses to take us to school. We all walked, and athletes got there. And we produced successful students just as are being produced from Reynolds now. So it's a nice idea. Furthermore, I live across the street from Haynes Park. And the only advantage of a stadium might be that I could clear my driveway and maybe rent some parking spaces. But Haynes Park it may affect the values on our properties that are around. But I walk around Haynes Park 3 times a week, and I would rather not see the stadium there, but that's a personal thing. But the important thing is, how are we going to spend the little bit of money we have for education? We've been taking our assistants in the classroom. In the first grade, we don't have a full-time assistant anymore because the legislature took our funding away, and the school board has tried to make some compromises on it. We have one half-time. Second grade, no more at all.
Thank you, Mr. Kleiner.
Good evening, Board, Chair, Dr. Emery. 2 weeks ago, I sat here amid a sea of red shirts and listened to the board talk about the priority of raising the local supplement for teacher pay. Tonight, it's not on the agenda. Last year, a number of new activity buses were approved, including 3 additional activity buses over and above the number that were there. These buses can be used to transport students from Reynolds to their practice facilities and home at a much lower cost than the maintenance of an additional stadium. If teacher pay and student achievement are truly priorities, not 1 second, not 1 penny should be spent on a stadium until all the students have a safe place and excellent teachers. And we're spending 90 minutes tonight talking about it. I have no problem with home field advantage purchasing a lot in the neighborhood, building a stadium, and maintaining it. I don't have any problem with that at all. I have a problem with it even being talked about. Talk about inequity. 6 elementary schools of the top 100 are Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. 6 of the top 100 out of 1434 in the state of North Carolina. 14 of the bottom 100 are Winston-Salem, Forsyth County, including number 1434 out of 1434. And we need a stadium. 3 of the top 100 middle schools out of 674 are in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. 6 of the bottom 100 are. 3 of the top 100 high schools are in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. 3 of the bottom 100 are. Until those needs are addressed, I taught math for a year, and y'all spent $1 million on a computer program to help us all. I think it was called Discovery Ed. I can't remember because I couldn't use it. I was at Mount Tabor, not an underprivileged school, and we didn't have computers in my classroom to use what you all spent $1 million to provide. Seriously, and we need to talk about a stadium. Seriously.
Thank you. That concludes our speakers. She left? Yes. Someone had signed up, but they left, so they wanted their name removed. So, Board, we move into discussion items this evening. First, I will recognize Principal Linville, Scarlett Linville. so we can talk about new teacher support program for Ashley Academy.
Hi. Good evening, Chairwoman Jones, Dr. Emery, and members of the board, and audience members. I am Principal Linville, proud principal of the Ashley Academy for Cultural and Global Studies. What I want to share with you tonight is my effort as the leader of a school in transformation and still a teacher at heart, to strategize about how to recruit and retain the best of the best teachers for our students. Last year was our first year. It was a pilot program. It's called the New Teacher Support Program. The goal of this program is to improve student achievement by improving beginner teacher effectiveness with 3 core services. So we offer boot camps, intentional individualized classroom coaching, as well as professional development sessions that are aligned to our needs. One of the things, this is my 3rd year leading the school. We spent a lot of time focusing on student needs and offering differentiated support. But in service of my teachers, I have to offer differentiated support to them. Not every teacher has the same level of content knowledge, expertise with classroom management. So essentially, they're my students. And fortunately, this program has helped me to support the staff so that they can be better equipped to close those achievement gaps and opportunity gaps in our school. So BT 1, 2, and 3, BT is a beginning teacher. They would receive a coach weekly. And this year, our coach comes from UNC Greensboro. And during the visits, the coach conducts observations and gives support in various areas. It could be curriculum support, instruction, modeling lessons, co-teaching, giving feedback, and one-on-one sessions. And the coach is available via email, phone call, just an extra layer of support, or safety nets, if you will. Based on our teaching working conditions survey and data, SIG surveys, teacher turnover, we realized that this indicator, C3.04, is important. I have to be very creative and intentional about recruiting the best of the best. So we polled our teachers from last year. Last year we had officially 12, but the mentor would work with anyone who needed it. It wasn't just for beginning teachers. Last year was a bit of an outlier. As you can see, of the 12, I have 8 that were returning, but we also had the air quality issues that impacted people's decisions. But I am very happy to report that the teachers who were there are still in education, and that means a lot when we're in a period where there's a teacher shortage. This year I have 9 teachers that I want to support. They're beginning teachers. And we surveyed the staff. You have this in your packets, but I'm going to try to go through it quickly. Most of the statements drew teachers in agreement or strongly agree. Some of them were neutral just because there was a lot going on in our building, and I have to say that as a factor. But in my interview process, I have modified, how I recruit teachers and the conversations I have about the needs in our school. And when I'm able to say that I can offer one-on-one support to new teachers, that is marketable. They love it. They appreciate it. Again, I'm still a teacher at heart, so I have to think, what do I need to be able to address all of the needs of the students that we serve? So we reflected, and I've shared some pros and cons plus deltas and our plans for improvement this year. Last year, the coach that we had her own personal family circumstances that didn't allow her to be there as consistently towards the end of the year. This year, we have a new mentor. We also noticed that the classroom observations and feedback were more verbal. We would like for them to be written, and we would like it to be in alignment with our Getting Better Faster coaching framework that we've adopted. So the mentor will use the tracking log that we're all using. And another plus is just the coaching conversations and the collaboration with the leadership team and the mentor, because we're able to sit and build and look at research together and figure out better ways of supporting staff. Some teachers didn't always utilize the support, but it begins with the relationship. So this year, we want to coordinate and integrate some of the PD that would be offered for BT teachers to everyone in the staff. So, in conclusion, the rationale for the contract renewal would be to continue to allow our teachers to receive support from an outside coach so that they're objective and they don't feel like it's an evaluative situation and they can be psychologically safe. We also want the professional development that they will attend. It allows them to network with other beginning teachers across the state and to really delve into research-based practices. And then it's just continued support, weekly visits and follow-ups for teachers based on their individual needs. I'm willing to answer any questions you may have, but as a new principal, well, last year was, I'm not a new principal anymore, but last year, I had a lot of needs. With new teachers, they have a lot of questions, and with this year, the standards being changed and modified a bit with different content areas, there's even more of a need to make sure that people are coached up and have a full understanding of the content that they're supposed to deliver, and NTSP helps me to do that.
Ms. Bonsinger?
No, I just had a question to our seasoned principal. Do you get experienced teachers applying to work at Ashley? And because one of my concerns and many people's concerns are that high-need schools often are the training ground for brand-new teachers, and that more experienced teachers go teach in less-need schools.
So fortunately, this year I have a mix. I was able to use my SIG funding to offer recruitment bonuses and my Title I funding to offer retention bonuses. So I have a nice mix of
So you
staff.
feel that that's been successful?
It has. It has.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
But I do think that sometimes we have to really be creative to attract some of the best teachers, because the truth is, you're going to do more work at Ashley, but I truly believe it's more rewarding. So anything that I can do to mitigate, you know, financial issues or professional development support, that's what I can do. So I look for this program to help give teachers support in areas that I can't change your finances, but I can give you support and make your job a little bit easier.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Chair Jones, I just also wanted to mention that the new teacher support program is also funded by the General Assembly. So the cost here is half of what the real cost is. And so while the school has opted to go this route because they felt it was supportive last year, and Principal Linville is using part of her own Title I funds to support it, the other half of the cost is supported by funding from the General Assembly. And for the evidence that people have asked about here tonight, you can go on the website, actually, of the new teacher support program and look at data that's been collected over the years by districts that have used this, both retention data as well as school improvement data, along with all of our other data that is on our websites and available to folks to see, both school-based as well as district-based data. But I just think oftentimes we're always talking about what we don't have, and this is one of those cases where we actually do get 50% of the cost of this program funded through General Assembly support.
Yes, and part of our success is the sustainability and the consistency of staff year after year. And I know that there are teachers that did stay with me because they felt like they were supported in this work.
I wanted to say I think it's fantastic, especially at a local level, that we're able to participate in anything that helps to support our new teachers. I'm equally excited to know that the legislature has ponied in some money to help us with those funds. And when you think about new teacher initiatives at a local level, and then you think about the North Carolina Teaching Fellowship Program, which is taking enrollees, I think just stopped taking enrollees for this particular year, you know, that's just exciting for teaching in North Carolina, and where we think it can go in the next couple of years. So thank you, and continue to support those new teachers for us.
Thank you.
Other questions? Ms. Calvert-Hayes?
Well, this isn't a question, but I just want to thank you for retaining the teachers because you had a lot of difficult situations going on at the time at Ashley, and I want to applaud you for what you did. And what we want to do is be able to retain our teachers to want to teach and want to be in Forsyth County. So thank you for that support.
Here because I'm reading here that $19,800 is being funded by Title I. You know, we're supposed to be coming back today to vote on this, and I'm just a little bit confused here. Where is this money coming from other than Title I? Because it said the Ashley program here, Ashley Elementary School, first year we got through, and you had to come back to the board this year to approve this for next year. And it's $19,800, $2,200 per participant. I'm just wondering, how many participants are we talking about?
There are 9 participants.
9 teachers?
Nine teachers.
And what are we going to do with these other failing schools? You know, it look like with this Title I money, it ought to be spread out among these other schools that are failing.
Right, and so this is part, Principal Linville's using part of her Title I money that was allocated to Ashley, and we have Title I money that goes to the other schools as well, but this is how she and her staff feel like.
And yes, and I also want to clarify that it's our school improvement grant funds, our SIG grant, so we receive federal money for 5 years, and this is part of my budget, because it seems like a lot of money, but it would be worse if I didn't have teachers in that position. So it's a small price to pay to be able to retain and develop and keep the same teachers in my building while we continue to work to improve.
Well, I think before I leave here, I think I got another month or so. We need to get, I want to see how much money is being allocated to these other schools out of that Title I program. Because that's the purpose of Title I program, is to advance these other schools. So if it's good for Ashley, it ought to be good for the rest of these 9 schools that are failing.
Mr. Johnson, we'll make sure that we get you that list that we've been talking about.
And in line with what Mr. Johnson's saying, is this your second year with this particular program?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fantastic. And maybe, of course, if you get similar results with this particular program, maybe that's something you'll be able to speak with your instructional superintendent and be able to encourage other schools to also pick up.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Principal Linville, and I just want to say we are grateful for your leadership. You had a lot going on last year, and we know that you do a great job every single day for your students and your staff there in your building, and we appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Vice Chairman Barr, you're up. Finance Committee report.
Okay, first I want to say thanks to the commissioners for their support. Those of you that were at the commissioners meeting last week, we know that they passed a resolution that our school system will get a portion of the 1-cent sale tax if passes on the November the 6th ballot.
No, it's a quarter.
A quarter, sorry, quarter. So the quarter. So make sure.
Robert's trying to raise some money.
I'm trying to raise more money.
Quarter cent.
Quarter cent.
Quarter cent.
Thank you, quarter cent. So make sure you go out and vote. And then people have been wondering about our supplement team. Our supplement team will meet this coming Monday, October the 15th at 4 o'clock. And we've asked the following people to be a part of the team. We've got 2 board members, I think maybe now 3 board members, 2 teacher representatives, Mrs. Mays, Rhonda Mays from FCAE, and we also have central office staff. Also, we desired a commissioner to be a part of the team, but they have recommended a representative, Kyle Wolf from the county, to attend, so he will be a part of the supplemental team. The purpose of the meeting, once again, is to get our teacher supplement to a more competitive rate. Also, in our Finance Committee meeting, we compared Guilford and Forsyth County supplements, and if the numbers are correct, there's only a $2 difference, and I think we still need to continue to research that, but that's what we saw, only a $2 difference. And then also in finance, we discussed budget amendment number 1 and transfer number 1. Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
And more money.
The Building and Grounds Committee report, Lyda Calvert-Hayes.
Thank you. We talked about the 10-year capital plan, which was initiated with our 218-220 bond. We also talked about the 219 maintenance and capital projects, which was included in our 216 bond. We talked about Glenn High School Stadium and a cost review on that. And we also talked about Easton. We are redesigning plans for Easton and also Griffith. So we're looking at where we are. We're moving along very, very well on our construction for our new schools. If you get a chance, go by sometime and look at what we're doing. We feel very, very fortunate to be able to have everything going well, and I hope you will get a chance to go by Thurman Street. I think it just about blew my mind when I looked at where we were on the progress for our new school there. So if you get a chance, look at what the bond money is doing for our schools. We also talked about RJ Reynolds' plans. They were brought to us, and the plans, I do want to emphasize to all, this does not include public money at all. These plans were presented by Home Field Advantage, and they were paid for by Home Field Advantage. And what we are voting on tonight does not include any public money. So I just want to reemphasize that to all that are here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Calvert-Hayes. Board members, that concludes our discussion items for this evening. It moves us into our action items. First up, consider approval of the new teacher support program contract and MOU Principal Linville just discussed with us. Do I have a motion to approve? Mr. Singletary, second. Ms. Taylor, any discussion? No discussion. All in favor? Thank you very much. Any opposed? No. Okay. Just making sure all hands went up. Next, consider approval of the Health Services LLC contract. Do I have a motion to approve? Ms. Parker, second. Mr. Barr, any discussion needed, board? All in favor? Motion carries. Consider approval of the Language Matters, Inc. contract. Do I have a motion to approve? Ms. Taylor, do I have a second? Mr. Singletary, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Consider approval of Public Consulting Group contract extension. Do I have a motion to approve? Ms. Taylor, second. Ms. Clark, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Consider approval of the 2018 through 2020 capital project spending plan. Do I have a motion to approve? Ms. Calvert-Hayes, second. Mr. Johnson, do we have any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Consider approval of the 2019 maintenance and capital projects. Do I have a motion to approve? Thank you, Ms. Motsinger. Do I have a second? Ms. Parker, any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Next, consider approval of the RJ Reynolds Stadium construction plans. We have a motion by Ms. Calvert-Hayes, a second by Mr. Johnson. Board members, any discussion?
I just want to make sure that, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we are clear that we are just accepting the plans. We're not funding anything, or, correct? Correct, okay.
Correct. So do you need Daryl or anyone to come up, or do we need to, we've talked about the plans were reviewed, not this past Building and Grounds meeting, but before, and then we voted on them again tonight. Yes, I think so. In the information we have in front of us, well, I'll let Daryl talk, and if we want to read this, we can.
Yeah, so what you're approving tonight is basically the plans that have been designed that allow a stadium to fit in that particular space. That's what you're approving tonight.
does not allow us, there's still rules in place before any construction would have to take place. Still has to come back to this board. All the money after the bid process, all the money has to be in an account and accounted for. So there were some discussions about overruns. You would know that during the bid process. They would not be able to spend more money that is in the account. And so those guidelines and rules that were put in place in 2012 are still in place tonight.
Do you have other questions? I believe what Ms. Clark is saying. Ms. Clark's lost her voice, so but in front of you, we talk about the approval of the plans is not an authorization for construction of the facility. It is understood and agreed through our memorandum of understanding, and other issues and concerns must be satisfied prior to any authorization to construct the facility, including but not limited to funding, demolition of the Wiley Gym and relocation of the boiler room, accommodations for Wiley and RJ Reynolds students during construction, development and acceptance of a construction schedule, and development and acceptance of a student safety plan.
That is correct.
That's in our packet tonight, board members. Ms. Motsinger.
I just wanted to make a comment. In 2012, this was presented to our board as entirely privately funded. At that time, I did not vote in favor of building the stadium. However, I do accept that there was a vote taken by the board at the time that indeed said to people, you can do this, you can pay for the plans, and you can move forward. And I feel as a board member that I need to honor the commitment that that board made. At the same time, it was very, very clearly stated that that would be entirely privately funded. And I also feel as a board member, it's important to honor that commitment as well.
Thank you, Ms. Motsinger. Do you have another? Mr. Johnson.
I guess I'm just tired of talking about that stadium, because I came here in 1971, had North Forsyth, and all of these schools had stadiums. Atkins and Reynolds, two of the city schools, did not have stadiums because they were going to Bowman Gray. Now, these other stadiums that have come on board, Parkland, West, all of these stadiums, Glenn, were financed by the school board. And it's time for us to go ahead and get Reynolds out of the way.
Other comments or points for clarification, board members?
Yes, and I would like to just say one thing, that if in the future, if this board decides that we are going to fund this stadium, I'm telling you, I think just out of integrity to the action for Ashley people, that we will need to look at Ashley again, and I will definitely be a voice for that. So.
Okay, I believe I have a motion on the floor. I do not believe I have a second, unless I missed it. Do I? Mr. Johnson. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Johnson.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Johnson,
Mr. Johnson seconded. Okay. All right. Any other discussion, board? Comments?
Just a quick comment, just to piggyback off for Mr. Barr. I do want to say that I was a student athlete my entire life, all through college, so I understand the importance of having athletics in a school. So I am for Reynolds having their stadium, but just like Mr. Barr said, I do believe there are other issues that we also must address before we consider any allocations of funding the stadium. So, with that being said, I'm okay with the construction plans as long as the allocation of funding, as long as they're funding it at this point, funding the designs, I'm okay with that. But before we speak money, we do have other issues that are pressing that we should consider as well.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Ms. Parker?
As a member that was voted, it was, I think, never the intention for public money to be used for that, just as Mr. Walker just said, that the original plan was that all money needed to be raised and in the bank, and it needed to be fully funded. And so I just want to make sure that that's clear. I'm not sure that I mean, that was the intent. It was never the intent that there would be money given or considered. And so if that would be up to a totally new plan from the original plan that was set forth, and so that would be up to an entirely different board of people. Right. They would have to override the original plan, which was voted on, and the plan that is now in process. So I just want to make that really clear that there should not, if there is discussion of any change in that plan, then that would have to be a totally new plan voted on and executed. So I think
we're getting confused here. It's Reagan, Atkins, and Walkertown built in 2006. Now, all three of those schools' stadiums were financed by the school board. All three of them. So it's our responsibility to do the same thing for Reynolds. Amen.
And let me re-emphasize, from Buildings and Grounds, I am chair of Buildings and Grounds. This does not include any public money. The plans have been purchased by Home Field Advantage, and all we're doing tonight is voting on exactly what Mr. Walker said.
Okay. Anything else before we vote? So
Madam Chairman.
Yes.
First of all, this board, I've been really proud of the way that this board has handled situations that have come before it. We always try to be considerate of the public, considerate of our students, considerate of our teachers, but we also try to make sure that we wisely use the public dollars that come before us. Now, I agree with Mr. Johnson. Reynolds should have had a stadium a long time ago, and I believe it should have been paid for by the public. But that ship sailed, and that's not the case. I believe that there are a lot of politics surrounding why R.J. Reynolds does not already have a stadium. But I believe that the Home Field Advantage team, as well as the Haynes Park residents, the conflict between the two of them has helped to modify this plan to bring this plan of a stadium that accommodates sports as well as accommodates some of the concerns of the Haynes Park citizens. But I would encourage this board, because I will not be here after December, and I would encourage this board to remember the original memorandum was that Home Field Advantage would raise the funds. And Home Field Advantage, I believe this is your opportunity to create the first or one of many public-private partnerships to happen here in this area. As far as using public monies, I would seriously encourage my board to consider not doing that. The monies, the budget that we have is limited as it is. Our county commissioners, try as they may, only fund about half of what our actual capital maintenance needs are. There is talk of a 1/4-cent sales tax that could help us with a teacher supplement to some degree. We do have some money in fund balance, but that fund balance only represents less than 3% of our total budget, which is a very, very, very conservative savings point. If Hurricane Florence had come through Winston-Salem like Hugo did, our fund balance would have been gone like that, just in cleanup. So I just want to encourage you folks to continue to be the good stewards that you have been, and just in everything you're confronted with, just continue to do the right thing, but especially here. Let Home Field Advantage prove to us that they can do what they set out to do years ago, and then we can all enjoy a new stadium. Thank you.
Oh, I might as well say something. So I appreciate all of the thoughtful comments from all of our speakers this evening, and as well as the board. I believe that our memorandum, our plan with Home Field Advantage has already changed some when this board decided on the merits of Wiley, not because of a stadium, to put Wiley Gym in the bond. We took that away, but it again had nothing to do with the stadium and completely around Wiley and the needs of that school. Again, Ms. Calvert-Hayes is right. Tonight's vote is just around construction plans, and we have so many needs in our district: teacher supplements, classified employee pay, per pupil spending. I mean, we could go on and talk about those things. We have a laundry list. We also know that our bond did not cover all of our needs, right? We probably identified $750 million worth of needs. So, Ashley, and maybe we have design money in our bond, but it's hard to design when you don't have the land. So that's a thing that we need to take care of. I say all those things to say I also don't think all those things can be put into the same bucket. And so for me personally, to have a public-private partnership, which I think is great, I think we as a society can do more if we do those types of things, would be for us to have some skin in the game, and that would be some funding at some point. So not tonight, but at some point, I believe that it's not wrong when individual citizens see a concern and they go out, and not to complain about it, but they start to try to do something about it. And they try to raise money for it, and they pay for things, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I applaud those efforts. I also believe that, like we do, we work with other municipalities. If you go to behind Cash Elementary School at Bagley Field, that was a joint effort between the town of Kernersville, the school district, and an individual lacrosse team that came together to put a soccer, lacrosse, and it's used for soccer too, stadium that Winston-Salem Forsyth County school students on that side of the county are able to use. They have the first refusal. You know, they can put their games there, and then others in the community can do it. I think our kids benefit if we do those types of things in all places of the county. So I see that when I see this with Home Field Advantage. So at some point, I hope that this board or a future board looks to make a pledge toward the cause funding for Home Field Advantage. But tonight, that's not what we're voting on, so I don't want to get that confused. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor? Any opposed? No? Okay, thank you so much. So that concludes our action. We're not done, hold on. That concludes our action items for this evening. We now move to 2 consent agenda items that we have. Approval of the meeting minutes for September 25th, 2018, and approval of the general personnel report. Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Mr. Singletary, second. Ms. Calvert-Hayes, all in favor? Motion carries. Now we will open up the floor for public.
Thank you for joining us on your school channel, Cable 2.